This is BBC News. I'm Geetha Goramuthi. These are the latest headlines. The BBC announces plans to merge its two rolling news channels, BBC World and BBC News Channel, as well as closing some of its smaller broadcast channels in the next few years and moving content online. The BBC has announced plans to close some of its smaller broadcast channels in the next few years and move content online. It also plans to merge its two rolling news channels, BBC World News and the BBC News Channel, which you're watching now, into one 24-hour TV news channel. Well, the changes mean £200 million of cuts a year as part of efforts to become what's described as digital first. In January, the latest licence fee settlement was announced, which will keep it at £159 a year for 2 years and then rise in line with inflation. Earlier, our media editor, Amal Rajan, told me more about the changes.
The BBC had for several years already been sort of trying to shift, as every media organisation in the world has done, to become digital first. The BBC's in a difficult position in doing that because it's got to make sure licence fee payers, many of whom consume it through linear channels on TV set-top boxes, are still kept happy. But basically what we have got today is, I think, the radical acceleration of the BBC's shift to a digital media entity, and it's really an attempt by Tim Davies, Director General, I think, to address two big threats. One is financial. The BBC does have, as you mentioned there to Rachel Reeves, a 2-year freeze in the licence fee. So the BBC has this amazing privilege of being funded by a licence fee. It's been frozen at £159 for 2 years. That means the BBC's got to find savings. After that, after 2024, it will rise by inflation. Then there's a second threat, which is technological, which is that more and more of the future licence fee payers are consuming things online, and that's not where the BBC's resources are focused. So to address those two challenges, there is this £500 million plan. £200 million of savings, of which the BBC has found £50 million. It's going to have to find another £150 million. And then there's a £300 million reinvestment, which is really a reallocation of resources around digital. What that means in practice for people watching this now is, among other things, in 3 years or so, not in the next 3 years, in 3 years or so, there are some channels which will be moving from linear to digital, and amongst those is CBBC, the children's channel that I'm addicted to, not out of choice.
So that won't be on the television?
Won't be on the television, so the content will still be there. CBBC stuff will still be there. There might be some changes in what they do, but it'll become a digital channel. Same is true of BBC Four, which is got lots of archive material on it, of course. That'll go from being a TV channel to being digital, and Radio 4 Extra. None of that's going to happen for the next 3 years, but after 3 years, those three channels will change and become digital. And before that, as you mentioned, there will be a merger of BBC News and BBC World. These two different TV channels will become one.
And what is that going to mean? Did Tim Davies say anything else for...
We don't, I mean, what that means...
The implications of... We cover, obviously, breaking news in the UK and around the world.
I think the idea is that there will be a singular service which all the BBC's thousands of journalists around the world will be able to contribute to, and so that shouldn't have an impact on whether or not the BBC has a destination for breaking news. Overall, all of these changes will mean job cuts. So there will be up to, it says, up to is always a slightly deceptive phrase, isn't it? But I think up to 1,000 fewer people employed in the public funded part of the BBC over the next few years. And what you have is a BBC which is basically not just changing shape, but it is, I think, becoming a bit smaller. It's becoming smaller in relative terms. I mean, the BBC used to be a shark in a media pond. It's now a kind of sardine in a media ocean. And it's also becoming slightly smaller in absolute terms because it's just got less money in the short term. So a bit less money, fewer people, and that money, that reduction in money, has to go further in that it has to reach people digitally. And I think that is what today is about. It is quite a radical, it is quite an ambitious bunch of proposals here, albeit a continuation of an attempt to shift to digital, which we've seen for a few years.